Those of you that don't think crappies smell, in the summertime, put about 3 in your trunk and wait a week. Believe me, they're going to be smelling. But no, they do smell. The absence of scent is actually better than bad scent. But what you've got to do is keep clean. Make sure nothing's on your plastics. Make sure nothing's on your hand. If you've got your coveralls on and you're out changing your oil that morning and you wipe your hand on your coveralls and then say, man, I got to go fishing, well, that'll work good till you catch your first fish. Then you wipe your hands and go on, and then you go. So now what I'll do is make sure that I am clean. I make sure that my boat is full of gas before I go out. I make sure it's got all the oil in it before I go out. Then I wash my hands very well. Then when I get on the lake, after I've unhooked the boat, done all this stuff, and get on the lake, before I touch anything, I will take one of these oil-based scents and actually squirt it on my hands. It's great for that. Then I'll add a crappie nibble to my bait. You've heard a lot about all these things out there that are called fish attractants. Let me tell you something about oil-based attractants. They're not. Because that oil base stays right on that lure. Once it's in his mouth, then there's that absence of bad scent from the oil she put on it, so they will hang on to it long. The crappie nibble is actually a water-based scent. When it's in the water, it's starting to melt, and it actually causes a scent cloud around it. This is an attractant. Do you always need it? No. But I guarantee this, to make sure that your lure down there has the absence of bad scent, I'd make sure this is on there. Now these happen to be the ones with sparkles on them. If everybody has touched shad, you know that the scales come off fairly easy. Well, if that crappie has actually hit a shad and didn't kill it, these sparkles are everywhere in the water. This kind of duplicates it. A little hint on this. They're very soft. They stink. And these little sparkles, once they're on your hands, it will make it to your nose somehow. I cannot figure that out, but my wife always knows when I've been using sparkles because it's all over my face. I guess I picked my nose or something like that, but pour these out and let them dry out a little bit. If you let them stay out too long, they will turn into a brick. Don't worry a whole lot about that, because put them back in the jar that's not been dried out, and in about a couple of days they'll be back to the right thing. Do not add water to these, because they'll just melt. Because it's just like having them in the water. They just melt away. But these are some of the things that I'm telling you that will help you improve your crappie fishing. Now what I'm going to do right now is jump right into, well, let me show you something here. I showed you guys, threw out some baits out there, and I want to show you something. How many of you have been on the lake and you have the wrong collar? Your buddy over there has got the right collar, and all of a sudden that 10-cent jig becomes $5. That's my normal fee if I got something working real good. Excuse me. But they have this product out here called Spike It. And these are like little magic markers, but they're not magic markers. They're actually a scent. And what they are, they act just like a magic marker. But if you'll notice, I threw out some chartreuse and white. That is a nice collar. But I can make that. So here you are, all you got is white jigs in your boat. You take out one of these, tight, just do it like a magic marker. Now I've got that chartreuse. Now, what you can do now is make something better than he's got. They got an orange. tip that top of that jig with that orange. Ever seen those in the store? You have? I've never seen that color in the stores. But then that's got a garlic scent to it. But you can make stuff like that. When I'm out guiding, believe me, I love handing these to kids with a white jig and say, make me a collar. My George, they've come up with some goodies. But this is something that you can use out there on the water to make sure that your fishing goes good. And I have an array of different colors, but I don't have anything like that. Not a thing like that. But that will work. I guarantee it'll work. Now I'm going to save what I call the ultimate crappie pole for last. But now I'm going to show you something you can do for summertime fishing and brush pile fishing. Because we all know that crappie do love brush piles. And in summertime, you're going to find the majority of your fish in the lake around brush piles. We all know brush piles are jig-eating machines. I never put 2 jigs into a brush pile. That what I showed you there for wintertime fishing, I'm not going to stick that into a brush pile because I will lose it. So now I researched the old books. You know, Crappie Wisdom by the In-Fisherman guys showed me this rig. Now I've changed it a little bit from what they used at the time, but this is nothing new. This is something that they've used 40 some years ago. It's called a Kentucky rig, a drop rig. I call it the summertime rig. Now this is 50-pound test line. Remember I said crappie aren't line shy? This is a medium heavy action rod. I've got a bait caster reel on here that does have the flipping switch mode on there, and that's something I'll get into. On that, I've got a 1-ounce sinker, 1-aught hooks. Now off these 1-aught hooks, I have a monofilament leader. Why don't I use this 50-pound on that? Well, by George, I am going to hook up into that brush pile eventually, and I want something to break. So I want that to break. It's still got 17 pounds of strength to where it will bend a hook. This is like, say, live bait rig. When I hook the minnow on there, I know there's several theories on how to hook a minnow. Through the tail, through the back, through the lips. I'm hooking them through the eyes. The lower part of that minnow's eyes, I'm running that hook right through the bottom part of it and out the other side. This will readily go right through there. 2 things are going to happen now. You haven't really injured that minnow at all. Not ordinary one bit. Plus also too, you've got a lot of minnow on there now. So when you make that hook set, it's not going to rip out of his lips or rip out of his back, and we all know that. It'll actually be on there. This works extremely well. Keep your minnows lively. In the summertime, do not put ice in your minnows. Now you got your minnows at 50 degrees. You take it out and you stick him into 80 degrees, 90 degrees. He lives about 5 seconds. And now he's a dead minnow. I like to keep my minnows at the same temperature. So that means you got to aerate. Buy you a portable aerator. Put it right down in your minnow bucket. If they start to float up to the top and it seems like they're gasping for air, they're not happy. When I reach in that minnow bucket, I want to hear them hitting the sides. I have a bait well. I put the majority of my minnows in my bait well. And I take out about a dozen at a time. And still have it on aeration. People that say that they can outfish live bait, they're not taking care of their live bait. Live bait works extremely, extremely well. Now back to fishing it.